Everything you have ever loved, it creates its own version of reality. But who is really in control? The biomystery begins now.
Welcome to today's Explainer. Get ready, because we are jumping right into something absolutely mind-bending today. We're going to unpack the deeply mysterious reality of the exact thing you're using to understand my words right this very second. That 3-pound lump of tissue sitting securely inside your head.
Just think about this for a second. 3 pounds, total darkness. Everything you have ever loved, every single memory that breaks your heart, every brilliant idea you've ever had, and every decision you've ever made, it all happens inside this wet mass of biology. And here's the real kicker. This incredible organ has never actually seen the light of day. It's locked away in a pitch-black vault of bone, and yet, somehow it renders the entire vibrant universe for you.
Now, consider the timeline of your own free will. Neuroscience suggests a deeply unsettling reality here. Your brain actually makes decisions seconds before you are even conscious of making them. Yeah, you heard that right. By the time you think to yourself, hey, I'm going to choose this option, your brain has already fired the signals and made the choice for you. You are literally just experiencing the echo of a decision that was already made behind closed doors.
So, that brings us to a rather chilling question. If your brain is running the show behind the scenes, dictating your choices before your conscious mind even gets the memo, well, who exactly is typing at the keyboard of your life? Are you really in control, or are you just a passenger on a ride designed by your neurons? Keep that question in the back of your mind as we dive a bit deeper.
Part 1. The Energy Paradox.
So as we examine our first major biological mystery, let's talk about efficiency versus output. If you tried to build a machine that could do what the brain does, coordinating complex calculus, processing ultra-high-definition visual data in real time, regulating your heartbeat, and storing an entire lifetime of memories, you'd probably imagine needing a massive industrial power plant to run the whole shebang, right? You'd expect giant servers, huge cooling towers, and just megawatts of electricity to pull off that kind of staggering output. But the actual reality? It's pretty shocking.
20 watts. That is all it takes. Your brain runs on a mere 20 watts of power. To put that into perspective, that's actually less energy than the dim little light bulb sitting inside your refrigerator. With less power than it takes to illuminate your midnight snacks, your brain is out here processing the entire cosmos.
But hey, don't let that low wattage fool you. Despite consuming so little power, within that tiny little space, your brain generates an unbelievable amount of activity. Every single day, it produces enough electrical impulses to power all the smartphones in a small city. It's just an absolute masterpiece of biological efficiency, churning out massive electrical storms of data around the clock.
And speaking of bizarre internal hardware, here's a crazy fact. The brain feels everything, but it cannot feel itself. It has absolutely zero pain receptors. Zero. This means neurosurgeons can literally open up a patient's skull and operate directly on the brain while the person is fully awake. You could literally sit there having a casual conversation while a scalpel touches your brain tissue, and you wouldn't feel a thing. Wild, right?
And while we're on the topic of its relentless operations, your brain refuses to ever truly turn off. Even when you're dead asleep, it doesn't shut down, it just switches gears. It shifts into what's known as the glymphatic system. You can think of this as a heavy-duty cleaning cycle. While you're dreaming, the brain is literally washing itself, flushing out all the toxic metabolic waste that builds up during your waking hours.
Part 2. Hallucinating your reality.
Okay, this is where things get truly unnerving. Your brain doesn't actually record the outside world like a perfectly objective video camera. Instead, it actively filters it. It actively hallucinates a highly curated version of reality just to keep you alive and functioning. And because of this incredibly complex processing, you are technically living in the past. Light takes time to hit your eye, sound takes time to travel to your ear, and your brain takes time to stitch all that raw sensory data together into a cohesive picture. So by the time you actually perceive an event, it's already happened. You are always experiencing the world a tiny fraction of a second behind actual reality. You've literally never experienced the true now.
And what happens if you take away that sensory input? Well, the brain doesn't just quietly wait in the dark. It starts inventing things out of thin air. In total sensory deprivation, the mind creates its own sights and sounds out of absolute nothingness. Or take phantom limb syndrome, for example, where a person can feel excruciating pain or a random itch in an arm or leg that was amputated years ago. The physical limb is long gone, but the brain invents the feeling anyway. It completely proves that what you experience isn't necessarily what's out there. It's simply what your brain tells you is out there.
Part 3. The Split Brain Mystery.
To really understand what happens when we physically divide the two halves of the human mind, we have to look at a very specific surgical procedure called a corpus callosotomy. This is used in extreme cases, like treating really severe epilepsy, and it involves cutting the physical bridge of nerve fibers that connects the left and right hemispheres of the brain. When this vital communication bridge is fully severed, the results from these legendary split brain experiments are absolutely staggering.
Because once that physical bridge is gone, the left and right sides of the brain can act completely independently of one another. And we're not just talking about a simple division of labor here. We are talking about distinct intentions, separate beliefs, and differing desires existing in the exact same head. You could literally have a situation where one hand might be buttoning up a shirt, while the other hand aggressively unbuttons it.
Which, of course, leaves us asking, what exactly does that make us? Are we dealing with one unified soul, or, as these experiments strongly suggest, is human consciousness actually two distinct entities just sharing a single rental body?
Part 4. When the mind breaks. Now we have to confront the extreme fragility of human identity and exactly what happens when this delicate hardware gets damaged. Who you are, your core self, feels so incredibly permanent, but a single microscopic stroke, a tiny blood clot, or just a momentary physical trauma can entirely rewrite who a person is. I mean, we see cases where people wake up with completely altered personalities. Their deepest religious beliefs change overnight. Core memories are erased as if they never even happened. The you that you identify with is entirely dependent on the physical integrity of those super delicate neural pathways.
Perhaps the most chilling example of this fragility is a really strange disorder known as the Capgras delusion. This is a neurological condition where the patient's visual recognition completely disconnects from their emotional response. So the result? They look at their spouse or their family members, and they genuinely believe that their loved ones have been replaced by identical imposters. It looks exactly like them, but it doesn't feel like them, so the brain just logically concludes they must be a fake. It's honestly the ultimate example of how our sense of reality and human connection can be shattered in an absolute instant.
And you know, isn't it incredibly ironic? We launch massive telescopes to explore outer space. We build these high-tech submarines to map the deep ocean. And yet, humanity spends its entire existence largely ignoring the closest, most complex frontier available to us.
So I really want to leave you with this final thought today. What mysteries are waiting in the sprawling, pitch-black universe sitting right behind your eyes? We have only just scratched the surface of what this 3-pound organ is really capable of. It controls everything. It hallucinates your entire world, and yet we barely understand it. Keep questioning your reality, and remember, the biggest mysteries aren't always out there in the stars. Sometimes, they're right inside your own head. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and stay curious.